The voice of
Okay, so
peace.
in about 2 seconds, we are live. We are live. So give me your smile.
Hello, Mel.
Hey, Arnon, Noni, Katz. So you've got Mel, and we start with our jingle. Do you have a jingle on your show?
No, I doesn't have a jingle.
Okay, so I have to write
It's
you a jingle.
good idea to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think every show needs a jingle. So we're gonna jingle now.
Let's have the jingle.
Let's jingle. We are ready to go. Here we go.
Get a chair, grab a seat, oh sweep you off your feet. We groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell, you got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on real tight. For before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. It's our road, don't you know, you got Mel. Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give it yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give it a smell, you got Mel. You've got Mel.
And Mel,
Yeah.
Arnon, Noni, Katz. So do you have like a split personality? Sometimes you're Arnon, sometimes you're Noni.
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
Well, I don't really care. So I let other people to decide. Some people call me Arnon, some call me Arnold,
Arnold.
some call me Arnon, and some Noni. So I let people choose as long as I know that they are calling me or they're using, that they are referring to me.
Mm-hmm.
I say I'm here.
Okay, but you draw the line at being called Peter.
I don't mind, but we have to agree about that before. So if someone will call me Peter, I will pay attention to it and I realize that he's calling me Peter. Okay.
I have a story for you, but we'll talk about it later because
I have a story about it. I have another name, actually. I have a second name. My second name is Daniel. And when I was Daniel, yeah. And when I was around 6 years old, I decided that I preferred the name Daniel. But for some reason, I also decided I'm not going to announce it. And then people ask for me for Arnon or Noni or Arnon, and I didn't answer. And then they asked me, why you don't answer? And I said, because my name is Daniel. But that was many, many years ago. Since then, I said, you know what? It doesn't really matter.
So you are, as I know you, an adult who doesn't always take the common road. What were you like as a kid in school?
Usually, I don't take the common road.
Exactly. Well, I was trying to be kind. The beginning of our talk.
Even if I tried, I had some period in my life that I tried very hard to do what is supposed to be right, and it went terribly wrong.
What did you try to do right?
For example, I worked as a clerk in a bank for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, I just finished my service in the army. I went to the bank to check my debt. And the guy in the bank, he asked me, why don't you open some, invest in some securities or something like that, and say, I would with pleasure, but I doesn't have a penny. So he asked, why you doesn't have a penny? I said, because I doesn't have a job. So he said, why don't you work in a bank? In our bank? I said, okay, why not? So I found myself sitting in the bank as a clerk, and it was a disaster. I made all possible mistakes. The only thing that I really like about this job that people came to visit in the bank. At that time, it was not online. So I like to meet the people, but all the rest was a disaster. I made mistakes with the numbers, with the figures, with everything. And after 6 months, I said to my wife, I'm gonna quit. And she asked why. It's a good job. You got salary.
One second. This was after the army,
Yeah.
and you had a wife.
At that time, she was my girlfriend.
Okay.
It's the same wife.
Okay. Okay. You're one of these people who have the same wife?
Yeah. In there is only one thing in my life that is like stable like a rock. This for me, I don't know about her, what she's gonna say about it, but she's the something that I stick with it.
Arnon, Noni, Daniel. I've been married for so many years that my wife doesn't allow me to say how long.
Yeah.
So it's nice to find somebody else who's married.
Yeah, I think there is one thing that I can say about myself, that since the first day we met, we are together. And this is one thing that I'm very consistent with. And I do it with passion for many, many years.
I take my hat off to you.
All the rest, people will give you different opinions about all the other stuff that I'm doing and how I'm doing. And I'm not sure I have an idea, but there's one thing that is the same like it was many, many years ago. Anyway, so I said to my wife, I'm going to leave this job. And she said, why? It's a good job. We have a salary. So I said to her, listen, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life, but I'm sure I know what I'm not going to do in my life. I'm not going to stay in this job.
But I know that you became a high-tech guru, a very successful one. So was that right after? What was the story there?
Look, some years ago, I was invited to the opening of the Royal Institution of Great Britain.
The who?
The Royal Institution of Great Britain, that was founded by the most famous scientist of the history of England.
The Royal Academy.
Royal Institution.
The Royal Institution.
Yeah.
They invited you. The Queen invited you.
They invited me for the opening after they refurbished the place and made a beautiful place. And they invited me. And the opening was honored by the Queen and the Duke. And each person who was invited to this event pointed to a certain room. So they put me in the room that was dedicated to the biggest mathematicians in the history of humanity. And I met there a guy, is a professor of mathematics, one of the most famous professors in UK. And I didn't want to tell him that I didn't finish my degree in mathematics, but I did read his book.
You read his book?
I read his book. His name Professor de Sotoy, and he wrote the book, The Music of the Prime Numbers. I don't know if you heard about this book. And no. It's an amazing book about the theory of the mathematics. And I told him, listen, I really enjoy reading your book. Why? Because in this book, he mentioned that when he was young, he was very bad with arithmetics. And only through his book, I have learned that arithmetic is one thing and mathematics is another thing. But I grown up with the understanding from my surrounding that I'm very bad in mathematics.
Okay, so even though I want to move towards adulthood, you keep. It's okay. It's okay. You've got Mel. You keep pulling me back to childhood.
So now I'm back.
Talk about your pain.
So now I'm in the Royal Institution.
No. Go back to your childhood.
This is part of it. This is part of the story. And Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke are coming to the room, and the Duke is approaching me. And I said to myself, oh my God, now we're going to figure out my English, you know, is not an Oxford one, it's very basic. But let's live with that. You know, if he approached me and he asked me something, I'll have to deal with that. So the Duke came to me and he said to me, listen, and that's why I'm telling you this story. He said, listen, I'm very impressed that you are here. Probably you are a very successful person. So yeah, I answered him whatever came to my mind at the moment. I said to him, this you will have to ask my mother, and I'm not sure what kind of answer you will get from her.
I love it. So, but okay. So you met the Queen, you met the Duke.
Yeah.
You must have been invited for a reason. What was the reason?
Okay, so now we'll go back on time, because you see.
No. What were you? Why were you invited to this establishment?
Because I met the head of this institution. She is the first woman. She was the first woman who was at the head of this institution. Baroness Greenfield. She's a brain scientist, and we became friends. We had a nice conversation together. We became friends, and once she opened the institution, she invited me. So that's the very simple reason why she invited
me. So you just hang out with amazing people.
Yeah, I do my best.
Okay, so now back to childhood.
Now back to childhood. So when I was as a kid at school, I had a lot. I made a lot of trouble. It was not easy for no one, not for me, not for my teachers, not for my parents. All right. It's hard to describe, but I simply didn't have the patience to sit in class. I remember I'm counting the seconds.
Maybe you had ADHD.
At the time, it was not so so popular. You know, at the time, people didn't know that something like this exists, and we can talk about this. But anyway, I have reached an agreement with my parents and with my teacher. Whenever I cannot sit anymore in class, I can go to the library. That was the deal. And apparently it was a very good deal, because I went to the library, and although I didn't have much patience to read everything, I really like to browse the books, read the little titles under the pictures. That was my favorite things to do, because you see the picture, you read the title, and you get the idea what's in there. So lucky enough, I really like to read books. Not always to read the whole book.
So you did read a few books.
I read a few books, and to be honest, between us, you know, nobody is listening. I didn't even read all these books. Sometimes I read the back part of the book, or the introduction to the book, and it was enough for me. I said, okay, I got the idea. I don't have to go into all these details. And one day, I came home. It was in 78. I was 10 years old, 10 and a half. I came home and I found a magazine on the table. And I look at the magazine. The name of the magazine was, it was periodical. It was once a month a magazine. And the name was Fantasia 2000, Fantasy 2000. And I took this magazine and I opened it, and I fall in love with everything inside. This magazine was created by 3 students at the time that decided to make a magazine about science fiction and fantasy. And this magazine was amazing. The pictures were amazing. I still remember the pictures. The articles were reviews about science fiction stories, short stories of young writers, short stories about science fiction, short stories about fantasy. And I remember every month I used to go to the kiosk and wait to see if the magazine was released. And I read all of them. After 3 years, they stopped this publication because it was not profitable enough. But lately, they scanned all the historical magazine and they put them online on Facebook. So whoever wants, they have a website.
We can add a link underneath the
fantasy2000.co.il. And what actually happened, a friend of my mother, she visited my mom and she forgot it on the table. After I met her son and I said to him, you know that your mother changed my life. And he said, what are you talking about? And I told him the story. And years after, I even found her on Facebook. And I approached her, and for some reason she said, now I know who was stealing my magazine. I never found him in the mailbox, but which is not true, because maybe once, or twice,
No, but sometimes there's long-term borrowing.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe I put it back after. I'm not sure.
And everything is a story, right?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But I must admit that by reading science fiction in a very early age and reading ideas about fantasy, it really influenced my life. And I'll try to explain why. The nice thing about science fiction that everything is possible. You release yourself from the barriers of science and rationality. And a good science fiction story has a coherent structure. So while you are inside, everything is in space. Everything makes sense, as long as it's under the context of this fantasy story or science fiction story. And it opened up the possibility to many ideas. Now, when I observe reality, whether it's the idea that my parents came with, or ideas of my teachers, or ideas of different ideologists or politicians, I look at them and say, they have their own story. In their own story, they are right. It doesn't mean that someone else is wrong. So when, for instance, I'm not a religious person, yeah, but I can understand religious people and their rationalization and their belief system, and I know that in their world, everything in place, or some of it in place. So I think this kind of approach can really influence people's life. And then I go back after my service in the army, after I quit from the bank.
One second, you finished high school?
I finished high school, but I did my bagrut, my degree.
Matriculation.
Yeah, after I finished my army.
That's okay.
Yeah, I did it. Just to to keep my mother.
I'm going to love you the same.
Relax, yeah, to make my parents.
I don't judge people on their formal education.
I'm over it. It took me some time.
I can tell you one thing, okay? I have very few prejudices in my life, but I believe that professors are among the meanest people. I spent my career with university professors. They are among the meanest people, not the nicest people, not the people I want to hang out with. I want to hang out with you, not with them. So go on.
Look, some that I know they're fine, but I must tell you that it took me time to get over it, because as a kid, I wanted to be a good kid. I wanted to be a good student. I wanted to have the patience to sit in class and to fulfill my parents' wishes. She always used to compare. She used to ask me why the kids of our neighbor, they are doing homework, why they are bringing good results at school, and why my kids are like this.
And you're sitting in the library reading captions of pictures.
So, you know, when I look back, I tell you this with a smile, but if I'm sincere, I should admit that it was not easy for me. I felt bad about myself. I felt that I don't have the skill or the capacity, the academic capacity, that I'm not smart enough, that for some reason for other kids is very easy and for me it's very hard. And it caused me a lot of frustration. And it took me some years to understand that each one of us is a bit different.
Okay, so now after 15 minutes, can we come back to my question?
Yeah.
Which was how did you become a high-tech guru?
So when we go, it's all related. The answer is related.
Of course.
But that's how when you have a conversation with someone with ADD, that's how it works. You know?
The problem is that you have somebody with ADHD is interviewing somebody with ADHD. That's why. Do you take medication?
No. Now I see it as an advantage. Why would I take?
So somebody who's not medicated with ADHD.
I wrote an article. It's a fictional article, and I sent to my wife because I've got 3 boys. So my wife have to deal with 4 ADD people at home. So you can imagine how it works together. So one day she asked me, she liked to use this terminology, attention deficit disorder, which I hate because terminology is important. And once you use the wrong terminology, you put things under specific context. So I wrote an article about a research that found that normal kids have a deficit to deal with things in a lateral thinking. So I took it upside down and I said, listen, there is a research that showed that actually it's not a deficit. Actually, people like me designed to deal with the reality in a different way. And we have some advantage with that.
Okay.
And she read the article and said, wow, it makes sense. Where did you find this research? So I said, I invented it.
I love it. You see, you're a professor already.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so to go back to your question, since I read a lot of science fiction books, when I first received a present, a 14.4K byte modem, it was before internet was open in Israel. At the time we had the bulletin board systems. I'm talking about 1991. My hands were shaking, but seriously, my hands were shaking because I felt that with this little box, noisy box, something very interesting going to happen around the world. And since then, I started to develop ideas and concepts around the internet. My first venture name was I have to translate it to English.
You can say it in Hebrew.
It's implementations of ideas.
Okay, I'll translate it.
Applications of ideas. יישומים ברעיונות. יישומים ברעיונות. Applications
Implementation of ideas.
Yeah, that was this is my business. What is that exactly? Nobody knows. I doesn't know, but this is my business. So that's how I start. And I said to myself, you know, all the world, it was, imagine 92. I said to myself, all the world is working for me now. And the good news, I doesn't have to pay them salaries. So I have companies now that put in infrastructure. They put in cables all over the world to create this internet available for everyone. And I have all these companies who create softwares like Mosaic at the time, or Netscape, or CompuServe, and all these companies are working for me. Just for me, they're working. They're creating all this amazing infrastructure for me. And what is my job? My job is to think about ideas that can be implemented on this infrastructure. And that's what I did.
Can you give us an example? Because
yeah, at the time I had Apple II. I didn't have a laptop, and I opened in 1992. I opened an online shop. So I went to companies. I carried my computer, which was heavy, and I carried my modem because no one had a modem. And I gave them presentation, and I told them they must have the online shop because the world is changing, and if they're not going to be in this online environment, they're going to lose their businesses. And many people invited me because they wanted to know who is this crazy guy. So I used to run to and knock in many doors, and I didn't understand why I don't get any order for no business for this shop. So it took me many years. So that's how I found myself in the internet, in the high-tech business. And the thing is that at the time, because I read a lot of science fiction books, it was very natural to me what we see today. So that people will have phones that you can watch videos on them or make live conference. Or it was all there many years ago in books from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. So it always there. Nothing surprised me. The other way around. I was sure it's going to happen. It took a bit more than I thought, to be honest.
So, but Noni, don't be modest. You had some. You must have had some major successes in high tech.
Well, imagine 90. Well, I had a lot of failures. I tried to do many things. I had.
Well, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for you to admit your success?
No. I will get there, but you know, I have to. It must be in the right context because you know, I talk with young entrepreneurs and they think, okay, let's do it, but it doesn't work this way.
You're talking to me. You're talking to me. Nobody can succeed without failing many times.
Yeah, I had many failures.
Okay.
I tried to do online postcards and portal and to sell books and services online and radio broadcast 95 radio broadcasting with the RA files. I don't know if you remember this, and many other things. Voice over IP, you name it. I tried almost everything. And in 97, I managed to sell CDs with software on them. That was the first time I received the check in the mail. I said, wow. So imagine since 91 till 97, I'm trying to do stuff. Nothing works. Nothing works. I already have kids. You know, I doesn't have to tell you. It's not fun. And some people ask me, how did you have the courage to keep going? And I must admit that I didn't have any courage. I just knew that I don't know how to do anything else. I said, that's what I am. That's what I know. What I'm going to do. And it was tough. And it was not easy. And emotionally, it was very hard. Anyway, in 98, I met a partner and we established online marketing company. So the idea was to build an online marketing company, and then after we agree and say, okay, let's build online marketing company, we start to think what we're gonna do the marketing for. So I say, oh, we'll figure it out. And then a friend of mine told me that there is one Israeli company that is struggling with the marketing. It was the company name 888 for online gaming. So I called them and I told them that I'm willing to do the marketing for them. And they said what it takes, and I said nothing. I just I will do the advertising, I do the marketing, and we share the revenue. And they agree, and that's how the business have started. So within 3 years, we became one of the biggest online marketing company in this industry in the world. And then in 2005, we took the company public on the AIM in the stock market in London. And about a year after, I sold my shares in the business. And that's it. That's the story.
That's it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a success story, but the beginning of the story, I think, has much more to tell about.
Yeah.
Than the end.
No, but I mean, it's important for people to understand that sometimes, hard work and belief in your core values and who you are, sometimes it pays off. No?
I would. It's not even hard work or believing. It's hard to explain this. Well, from my point of view, my experience, it's some kind of understanding that this is what you are doing. It's some kind of acceptance. This is me, for good or for bad. So it's not about the results. It's not I'll do that to get these results. No, it's about I do it because that's what I am. Whether I'm going to succeed or not, it doesn't matter. Of course, I want to succeed. But this is not the reason for me to do this. The reason for me to do this is because this is who I am. The reason a giraffe is because it's a giraffe. And
now you tell me. Now you tell me. So okay, so
at nature, people talk about success and about and young generation. My kids, I see they are concerned about the future, what they're going to do. But you see, look at the jungle, look at the animals. They all succeed in their own way. The giraffe eats the leaves at the top of the tree, and the turtle finds his food on the ground, and the lion is eating the gazelle. They all manage successfully. The thing is that they don't bother their mind, The giraffe doesn't think about becoming a donkey, and the lion doesn't think about a new career as a hippo.
Except in my children's books.
Okay, and this is a human idea. Okay. This is the human idea. When we don't understand what we are, and you think we are wrong, or we need to fix something about us. No, we are perfect.
So when I bumped into you, I bumped
about really what we are.
Okay. When I bumped into you 2 years ago, eating ice cream on Rothschild Boulevard, and I was with Jeff Pulver, you tried to sell me this 3-floor mansion in the middle of Manhattan. And I said, what happened to Arnon? He was like a high-tech guru, a prophet, and now he's selling real estate.
Yeah. So look, I think it's the same because this
I'm not your mother. So I mean, you can do whatever you want.
No. It's a good question, and I think the reason I'm into this venture is because it's the same idea. It's something that was sitting there for so many years and nobody thought about this storage space as a potential most beautiful, amazing penthouse ever made in Manhattan. And I went there, and because I think like science fiction guy, and I saw all the machinery and the amazing roof in the 39th floor facing the Central Park. I say, wow, we can create a house on the top of the world. That's what I can create. And probably with the technology of today, it's going to be easy. We move some machinery here, machinery there, and that's how I found myself involved in such a crazy project. And a friend of mine who lived next door for 30 years told me, listen, I see this roof for 30 years. I never thought something can be done about this roof. So I don't see the difference. It's the same idea. You look about something.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, what is it? This is a mobile phone.
Yeah.
But not necessarily. Maybe it's some other things, you know? Yeah. And this is what we do in science fiction. There is very, very interesting, very, very nice story of Asimov. I don't know, maybe you know the name in English. It's called Ben Shtesh Mashot. It's a planet that has two suns.
Uh-huh.
And therefore they don't know what darkness is. And that's where the story starts. How they deal once in 600 years. One of the sun is covered by one of the moon and they have darkness. And they're all freaking out.
Well, you know, this is what's happening now on the planet Earth.
Yeah?
At every 100 years we get a pandemic.
It's fascinating to see what that. It's fascinating. It's amazing.
So
whether we survive it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still fascinating.
Yeah. No. So here's the fascinating thing. People are looking at you. Here, I'm going to change my background. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to change my background, and I'm not with the leaves. I'm now here sitting out on the Sea of Galilee.
Shall I change mine as well?
No, but here's the crazy thing. Your background, it's like, it appears as if you're sitting on a ship off the coast of Turkey.
It's not appear. This is my background. I'll get, yeah, but there's some sun, but I can go.
You are sitting on a boat.
Yeah.
That's why it was so hard to get hold of you yesterday.
Yeah.
Because you were busy.
Reception is there. Yeah, I see this is.
It's okay. No, we believe you. We believe you. So, where are you? Near Marmaris or someplace?
Yeah. This is my working environment.
I can see that's Marmaris in the background.
It's not far from Marmaris.
Yeah. So what's that all about? Are you planning your next conquest?
No, I think it's the best place to be.
Is the whole world going to die and Noni Katz is going to be saved because he's on a boat?
No, look. When I was 16, I wrote a little story about a guy who lived in an apartment, okay? But the world becomes so advanced that he doesn't have to go outside from this apartment. So whatever he wants come to him. Wow. And whoever he wants to meet, he can meet on a hologram. So he stayed at home and he lived his life at home. He got the food, he got friends, he got games, he got everything. He has everything he wants. He meets his family on regular basis. He speaks with his parents, with his friends and family. And the only real thing he has, it's a small cat. And one day, the cat escaped from his place. So he went outside to search for his cat. And what actually he realized is that nobody is there. So the world with all the people doesn't even exist for many years, but because the system became so sophisticated, the system gave him an illusion that business is usual and everybody are around him. So his parents are not there. They are dead for many years, but he meet them through the hologram.
You wrote that when you were 16?
Yes.
Did you publish it?
I gave it to my teacher at school, and she told me it's rubbish.
I want to publish it.
I have to rewrite it. I don't have the story.
Yes.
I have to rewrite it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think this story tells
it's
us
also
not
no,
about.
but I mean, but look at the world, okay? The borders between reality and fantasy are so fluid these days.
Yeah.
You know, that you're talking to me as if we're in the same room, and 2 days ago I had somebody from Taiwan, and now people would think that your backdrop is a boat.
Yeah.
You're actually on a boat. So in
'83, I wrote this story.
Yeah.
A short story.
You can still publish it.
My teacher saw it and said, come on, it's rubbish. I don't know, maybe it was grammatically wasn't right well, but maybe the ideas were too hard to conceive at the time. I don't know, but the idea
I think it's great that when you write it
was that we are losing a perception of reality, and this story came to my mind because what you asked, if everybody going to die and I'm going to stay alone, if this is my solution, I say no, because this guy, he had a cat, so he actually appreciated real life. And I think the most important thing in life is to have the people around us, to have real people around us, and to meet real people, and to hug real people.
But your family's back in London
today.
Yeah, and you're still on this bloody boat.
Yeah, I have a few days for myself to think about our next story.
Okay. So I want to think together with you, because this has been.
You want an idea for a story?
No, from you?
Whatever.
I want to publish your stories. I want us to change the world somehow.
Why to change? It's beautiful anyway.
Okay. So anyway, so before you go, I teach the subject of success, and you're a successful person. Very often, successful people, during their childhood, somebody didn't believe in them. And part of their success is to show that person, hey, I was different as a kid, and you mocked me, but look at me now. So who is that person in your childhood that tormented you that you can now do a nana banana on?
Nana banana? I don't know this terminology.
Nana banana.
Oh, no, it's... I don't know. I wouldn't do it even if I could.
No, but is there somebody who didn't believe in you?
What do you mean? No, nobody believed in me. What is someone?
Okay, I'm going to rephrase it. But was there anybody who did believe in you? Who said, oh, no, I believe in you? Nobody.
Not that I remember. I think my mother. I remember that my mother suggested I will play organ. How we call it in English?
Organ.
And it was very expensive for my parents to buy an organ. And they bought this organ. Okay, they discussed it for a few months. It's not like today, okay, the kids want something. A few months of discussions, and my mom said, listen, the guy is talented. You have to buy one. And then they bought me this organ, and I didn't like it. It was boring. The teacher that they brought to teach me was a bit smelly. The music that I managed to play was nonsense. It was a disaster. But from respect to my parents and the effort they made and to buy this, or I continue. And then my mom said to my father one day, "Look how beautiful he's playing." So my father said to her, "Any dog is a deer in the eyes of his mother." And then I said to myself, I got the idea. No more. I'm free from from playing organ.
Okay, so this has been a wonderful interview.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd love to say to our audience around the world?
Yeah, that I want to thank you to pulling out those things and stories from me. And
that's my job.
I wish everybody a wonderful day, and don't be scared from Corona. Do whatever is needed to do, but keep optimistic. There's no other chance. As my friend, I have a friend, he's an hypochondriac. So hypochondriac. So I said to him, "You see, you suffer twice, because one day you're going to be right. We all get something, and on the road, on the way there, you suffer as well. So don't suffer. Enjoy your life. Have fun."
No, suffer only if you enjoy suffering.
Yeah, exactly. This is also a profession. I know a few professional people.
So listen, Noni, Arnon, Daniel, Katz, this has been a real pleasure and privilege. And let's find some cool shit to do together.
I'd be more than delighted. We can write stories together. We
can't write stories together because you write your stories, I publish them.
Yeah, have you ever tried?
To write a story with somebody?
Yeah.
It's like, for me?
Have you ever tried?
No, it would be like going to the bathroom with somebody.
This is something else. No, to go to the bathroom with someone else.
What do you mean? Sit down and write a story?
Yeah, let's create a story. Let's tell
together with somebody?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
How wrong can it be?
We'll start tomorrow. I've never done it before.
Yeah, me either.
Okay. Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you very much.
Drive safely.
I'll do my best. Thanks.